Hello Homeworthy, my name's Flossie and welcome to my London home. Let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name's Flossie and I'm a content creator in London and welcome to my home. So when I was looking for kind of where to live in London, I always knew I wanted to live kind of southwest London and wanted a bit of a project. So we got this flat and it was not really kind of what I wanted at all, but I lived in the space for about kind of I think 3 or 4 years and then decided to fully renovate the space and make it more homely because before it was just a bit run down. To get to where it is now, it's actually probably taken me nearly 4 years. I feel only now it's kind of got the finishing touches that I want and my personality in it. I'd describe my home style as traditional English countryside, but with a contemporary touch. The way I wanted to design this place was to have the feeling of the countryside in the city. I'm from the countryside and I absolutely adore it. I feel very at home there. And I wanted to have that feeling, but where I am obviously every day, and bringing that into London, which I think can be a little bit difficult, but it's just nice to have a bit of an escape from the kind of hustle and bustle of the city and it be a bit more calming and a kind of countryside feel. Welcome to the kitchen. This room has had the biggest transformation. So I added an extension. This part of the room was actually outside and leading into the garden before, and this also used to be partly the bathroom and then my bedroom. And so it's had a huge glow up. It is turned into a gorgeous kind of open plan kitchen living space, but just perfect for hosting. And again, I've used green, but I really wanted to have a vision of having a pink kitchen, but I didn't want it to be overly pink. So I decided to use a kind of more dusky pink, so that's Farrow and Ball setting plaster paint, and then adding in the green on kind of the cabinetry, which is Little Green, Wimble Lane. And it's just, I love the pink and green. It's not everyone's taste, but actually I've had a lot of people say that it's not too overly pink and green, which is great. And then I wanted to have glass cabinetry to show off the glassware, show off kind of the mugs and cookbooks and just have it looking nice and pretty. As much as I love open shelves, and I have some over here, I think for me it wouldn't really have worked. So I'm really glad we could add this in, and it just feels a little bit more kind of like a countryside kitchen. It's a shaker style kitchen that I got made by a company in Leicestershire, and it was just very easy, very simple, but I think it just looks a bit more elevated. And I've added these door cup handles and doorknobs that add kind of still a contemporary feel. They're probably a bit too contemporary for a typical countryside kitchen, but I wanted it to still feel like we're in London, but have the nods to the countryside. So these shelves were actually from an antique shop. I got them for, I think they were probably £5 each, and I cleaned them up and we put them in here. I think it's just so nice and adds a bit of fun to the room. And I absolutely love knickknacks and little trinkets, and it's really hard to not buy them from antique shops. So that's where I store everything. I change these around all the time. It's fun to kind of have an ongoing project, even though it's a little bit smaller. But all of these pieces pretty much are antiques. Some of them are quite sentimental to me, or I've been given them. These things, this is Anthropology, but my favourite artist did a collaboration with them, Luke Edward Hall, and I just love kind of the more contemporary style with a mixture. I've got a lot of nods again to the countryside and country sports. It's kind of what I grew up with, and it's nice to have that here. And then nods to, I've got a lot of fish in here. I spend a lot of time in Norfolk and we have a lot of fish out there, and it's just really nice to kind of have that link. Even though it's very subtle, I know that it's there. I just kind of pick up things every now and then, and from little markets or anything I like the look of, I'll pick up. I am very traditional and love kind of British and royal memorabilia, so I have these very old coronation cups, and it's just nice to have that, especially obviously being in London. It's just a nice nod to the culture, I guess. This I found in HomeSense, and it's just really, really fun. I just love the colours. It's a bit silly, it's a bit garish, but I think it somehow just works. I find with all of my pieces, if I like them, I'll probably make it work. This, people thought I was crazy, but I think it works really well. It's nice. And then again, I just kind of add pieces that I enjoy. Again, this was actually another HomeSense fineness lamp. I really wanted something tall to go in there. I just felt like it was a bit of a dead space. And it's not the most kind of attractive with the screen, so I just made it a bit more me and a bit more fun, and added that. And another, this is a gluggle jug, and it's one of my favourite pieces. It's just really fun because when you pour the water, it makes a gurgling noise. And my family have had one of these for years. It's just a very nostalgic memory to me, and I wanted to get one. So obviously it had to be pink, but I think it goes really well in here. And yeah, just nice little herbs. Again, this is just a pot I got from an antique shop for I think £1, and it's just nice to add bits and pieces that are not kind of too precious, but you can make them look really pretty in the space. Even things like this area, it's just fun to style and play around with. This is a teeny tiny antique butter dish. I probably won't ever use it for butter, but I just think it's really sweet and adds a little extra touch. And even things like this, an oil painting. I found this on Facebook Marketplace, and I just think it adds a little bit of extra detail to the space and a bit more colour, which I definitely don't shy away from colour. I don't think you should, but yeah, it just adds all those extra little pieces and draws the eye to different areas. And I find when people do come and spend time here, they're always looking at different pockets and different things, and I've probably changed things since they've last been here, so it's nice, and it's also a bit of a talking point with everyone. Even though we made the space bigger, we still kind of not struggled with room, but we had to really, really think about how to put it together. And my amazing architect and builders from Bashtan were amazing at kind of deciding what would work in here, because obviously they've done a lot of projects before, and I wasn't too sure on how it would fit, but I knew what I wanted. So we put the fridge in here, and then we have a double door larder cupboard. I've always dreamt of having double door pantry, and so I had these ones made, and it's just nice to have the spice is in the door and just have a space to put everything, and it still look in keeping with the rest of the cabinetry, and have a dedicated larder space. And I just think it's one of the things that I had that was on the top of my list that was a must, and they made it work, so that was great. So as I keep saying, a lot of my things are secondhand or from antique shops, and I just pick them up every time I see them. So even these pieces, this from a charity shop, this was from Sudbury Antiques Fair, and also even things like this, the doorstop. I absolutely love this. It was really inexpensive, but I think, again, it's just a nice item to have, and it also just makes me think of home. And then this basket was another Facebook Marketplace find, and I absolutely love it. It's Fortnum & Mason's hamper, but It was really inexpensive on Facebook, and I just actually used it to keep my recycling in because I didn't want a horrible, ugly bin. So I went for aesthetics over practicality probably, but I actually think it works really well. Another thing on my list for the renovation was to be able to have space for an actually decent sized dining table. Before I only had a 2-seater table, so to go from that to this is so nice. It just means I can host more. It acts kind of like an island. I was thinking about having an island, but actually I thought a dining table would be much more practical, and it's just really nice to have enough space. There's loads of space behind here as well, so when you're cooking it's fine to kind of bring everything over. This again is actually from Swoon, but I wanted it to look more classic and have kind of very simple design. And then these chairs were probably one of the best finds I ever have come across. They were from an antique shop, and they were really kind of run down and not looking that great. And actually online, for 2 of them was so much money, and actually I managed to get all 6 of them for basically the price of one of the chairs that people sell them on eBay for. And I have to thank my mum for finding them because I didn't really know what they were until she said, so I'm really grateful to her. But we just painted them. I decided to go with a dark grey just because at the time I was really inspired by some black chairs that I was originally going to get for the dining table, but I thought that would be too harsh, so I went for a kind of lighter grey, slate grey, and they are rattan chairs. And then I added these seat cushions from Habitat just because I thought the colours went perfectly, and it's just nice floral. They have a really nice ruffle, and again adds a little bit of extra colour and pattern. I definitely, again, don't shy away from colour or mixing pattern, and I just think it adds a little bit more detail and nice focal point to the dining table. So originally this nook was meant to be a desk, and so we added in this what would have been an extra little bit of desk, but it's turned out to come into my coffee station, which is one of my absolute favourite features of this room, and I just love my coffee machine. But it's just really fun to add little bits and pieces to it just to style it up. I have a lot of bits and bobs, and it might be a bit overwhelming for some people, but I think it's nice to have everywhere styled. But I've just added, like rechargeable lamp from Pookie. These are great for everywhere basically, especially if you're going outside or you want a lamp on the dining table. But again, I change this up quite often. I just loved these. I picked these up again on Facebook. These are just some vintage, I don't actually know what they are. I think maybe kind of just saucers for ice cream or something. But I just really like the design of them, and just even these pieces like my matcha bowl. It's just nice to have it looking pretty but still being able to be used. And then above that, I just have used these shelves to show some family photos, have kind of my speakers. I'm a huge lover of music and I adore David Bowie, and I have a lot of things kind of dotted around dedicated to him. But it's nice to still have like pops of colour and I love kind of brass elements. So I've added those in, and just any kind of little thing I'll try and find a home for it. Like even this little frog is like a sandbag frog. It's actually my granny's, and I just like that he's up there watching over everyone. It's just kind of small details like that I find really fun to add. This is my living room area just off the kitchen, and I love how bright and airy it feels, and it's so cozy. I absolutely love it. It feels, even on a day like today when it's really sunny, it feels nice and just open and bright, but then it's gorgeous on a winter's day or winter's evening. We can really kind of curl up on the sofa, but I wanted to ensure I had kind of space for working, and I found it really difficult to have this look nice, because I don't think a screen like this necessarily would look really good. So that's why I've kind of tried to style it the best I can. Again, another Facebook Marketplace find. I've found so many pieces on there, but I needed kind of a narrow desk I could use, and I found that on there. And then I've just added little touches here. Again, another David Bowie picture. These are really cool. These are stamps that were used here of him. I don't know when they're from, but you can actually get loads of stamps through the post office. They'll do prints like that, and it's just nice to have different kind of pieces that you don't often see. I like things like that. And then even a brass duck, a bit random, but I just think he looks kind of cute over there. And it's just nice to add little touches. But I feel I've made a desk area that maybe isn't so beautiful look in keeping with the room, and it's not too overwhelming considering it's just a big screen in the corner of the room. But I do think it kind of ties in well with the rest of the space. So my sofa is one of my, I feel I have a lot of favourite pieces, but this is actually one of them. I wanted to have as big a sofa as I possibly could and as deep as I possibly could, because I wanted to curl up on the sofa. That was a really big thing for me. And how the flat was before, there wasn't a huge amount of room. So I got this from Loaf, and I wanted it again to tie in with the room, so I went for green, but added the pinks in here as well. And then these are the prints from my bedroom that I have in there as well, from Oka. They were the kind of multi-pack of them, and I just think they look really cool. And this kind of setup was how the flat looked in all of the planning and the renders when we were doing the design. This was always the same, so it's nice that that's kept as it was, which I think just looks really nice and welcoming and just cozy. And then these side tables are they weren't really picked for kind of necessarily how they would fit in with the room. This one's actually blue, which I didn't mean to kind of keep like that, but I actually funnily think it works. I might change it one day, but not anytime soon. And then that's a more newer one. But that one was vintage. And then I've just loved these lamps. These were from Made, and I ordered them before I even started work on the flat, but I just thought they were so cute that I had to have them, and I think they work really well. It's just nice to have a bit of playful edge to it. And then just adding kind of pictures and little books and things to make it a bit more exciting, and things like this. This was my granny's that she gave to me. It looks like one of our dogs, and it's just even one of those little touches that I think add a little bit more character and personality to the space. I feel I've been quite successful in showing my personality in the space through those little touches, and I've helped quite a few people kind of add those bits to their home as well. It's nice to be able to share that, because I think people struggle with actually styling. So I just say add what you like, and that's kind of what I've done in this space as well as the rest of the flat. So this ottoman is actually new to me. This is probably the best Facebook Marketplace find I've ever found. I managed to get it for £40 and then reupholstered it with this gorgeous Colfax and Fowler fabric. I really love kind of the classic design of it. It's just very traditional. And I wanted a storage ottoman like this, but I just couldn't quite find the right thing. So to be able to find, after it was actually months of looking for an ottoman, I managed to find pretty much the perfect one. I just needed to reupholster it. So it was really fun to do. And then I've had a lot of fun styling the top. I changed this a lot, but as it's new, it's kind of stuck with this for now. But it's not perfect, but I don't think that really matters. It's just fun and has interesting kind of pieces that people can look through. But this tray was an absolute kind of dream to me. This was from Charland Home, but I managed to find this second-hand. And then pretty much all of these pieces are second-hand, so just nice books to add to the space, and things like this box. Again, I just love vintage brass. It's just good to kind of house remotes and things like that in there. It just adds a little detail. And this was from Etsy, but I got these vintage matches to fill it with, again from Etsy. I just think they look really fun and cool in there, just add a bit more to it. And it's just nice to add different kind of shapes and things like that to the top of it. One of my favourite ones is this trinket dish. This is Richard Ginori, but it's with Luke Edward Hall, which is one of my absolute favourite artists. And it's just fun to add those little elements. Also crystals, I've got quite a few crystals around the flat. And things, even just kind of the Country Life magazines, and just it's just fun to play with and add the bits I have just around. I will move things from the shelves to here, I will move things from here to the bedroom. It's just fun to kind of bring things back and forth and have nods to kind of the vintage side, antique side, and my style in here. But it's just, I think this is such a cool piece and adds so much to the room. Before it was a small kind of footstool, and I just think it's a bit of a wow factor, and I absolutely adore it. So another element I really wanted to have was built-in cabinetry, and with the kitchen obviously being in the same room, we kind of had to incorporate that into the rest of the kitchen cabinetry. So it's nice to have storage underneath here, but then also to have the TV, and even though obviously it's a big screen, it's not too overpowering, I don't think, and it's just cool to have all the pieces on the top and just show a lot of colour and fun things. This I have styled, but it's full of things I absolutely love, and I do think it kind of just manages to work. I do find that a lot with the rest of the flat, but this was kind of less design focused and more kind of my personality focused. Even things like, I'm a huge F1 fan, so I've got my McLaren Lego up there. This gin barrel, that is one of my favourite finds as well. It's just very cool. I've had that literally for probably 10 years, and it's just really fun to play around with. And kind of the old books, I'm a huge Tolkien fan, I've got a lot of Lord of the Rings. And then at the top is my dedicated Harry Potter section. And again, it's just nice to have. I think it's very nostalgic to me, and I love the stories, so it's great. And I'm also a huge rugby fan, so I've got my home team signed ball up there, which I've had since I was a child. And then also my pheasant, who we've called Pascal. He's just fun. I really like it. Again, it's just a countryside nod, and it's just really fun, and it might be a bit kind of different to add it into a contemporary space, but I think with how I've done it, it manages to work. I know it's not for everyone, but it just feels like home to me. And then even adding things like this are just really fun play of colour and pattern. This is from Annabelle Wand Interiors, and she creates these gorgeous bows, and it's just another piece that I wanted to add in. It just somehow manages to work, which is just really fun to play around with. This chair I've had for a really, really long time. It's actually a hand-me-down from my mum, and I just love how cool and nice the colour works with this leather. It probably could do with a little bit of work to it and a bit of added bit of love to it, but I just really like kind of how classic it is. Again, it's more contemporary, but I think with, you know, adding like this cushion, and my friend makes these quilts. She's got a company called Bengali Quilt Company, and she sources all of these from India, and they're just beautiful and the perfect colour combo for this room. I just think it's nice to, you know, even if you do have a piece that potentially might not work fully, but you can add little touches to incorporate it with the rest of the space. So as I host a lot, a bar cart was a bit of a non-negotiable for me, and again, my wonderful mum sourced this for me. This is, I actually do think this is my favourite piece in the whole flat. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how old it is, but it's really, really well made. So it's lasted a long time. It's got these gorgeous legs here and even just kind of the scallop edging. And one of my favourite features is that you can have your little stand to serve the drinks on. It's just really, really fun, and everything on here is a huge mix match. So a lot of people ask me about this. This is actually an ice bucket, and again, I think my mum gave me that as well. And that was from a vintage shop, and things like this. This is from Oliver Bonus, all new. This is from H&M. Like these ones are all vintage again. I just kind of find bits I like that I can kind of play around with. Another one of my favourites is this lighter. It's just really cool, and I think adding little fun touches like that. And this lamp from Pookie adds just the colour to it, bit of height as well. But it's just fun to house all of the drinks underneath, so I can make anyone a cocktail if they fancy one. So behind the bar cart is a little hidden surprise in what was the chimney breast. And I've just housed my record player and vinyls in there, and it somehow miraculously fit exactly perfectly. But I just think it's a nice way to keep it out of the way, but utilise the space that was there before. So now let's step outside and go into the garden. So welcome to the garden. This had a lot of love added to it. So we wanted it to feel really bright in here, so I painted the walls white and then added this really gorgeous fencing just to add a bit more, kind of make it look clean and bright. And then I actually got this sofa as a hand-me-down from my parents, and it is large, but I think it works really well. I've just added these really cool mattresses. These I just managed to source from not on the high street, and then all of these cushions are a mix match from Dunelm and Next, and it's just nice to add fun colour and a bit more kind of texture and pattern to it. And then I absolutely love plants, so I've added a lot of different herbs over here, and then we've got some really nice lavender and olive trees, and just I wanted to add lots of greens but then pops of colour with kind of those kind of flowers and foxglove. I just think it looks really nice and cosy. It looks 100 times better than it did before, and it's perfect for welcoming people for drinks and fun in the sun. So my style inspiration is so many different things. I'm always inspired by even just kind of looking at Pinterest or Instagram every day, but a huge inspiration for me is my mum. She's an interior designer. She helped a lot with this project, and growing up kind of with her doing her own projects, working with other people, it's just a huge inspiration to me. But I'm also around a lot of creatives and designers, having worked previously in interior design. So it's just something I've always kind of kept on top of, but I'd say a mixture between kind of my mum being a designer and then just having a general interest and passion for it. Welcome to my hallway. This area actually inspired the whole renovation, but it was all inspired from this wallpaper from Lewis & Wood. So this space is pretty narrow, but I wanted to have an area to, once you come in, to kind of put your keys down, your bag down, and just have those necessities while you're kind of getting ready to leave the flat. So I actually was looking for something very narrow, still in keeping with kind of the countryside theme or kind of just classic design, and I managed to source this piece from the Cotswold Company, and I just added kind of a bit of extra detail to it with these knobs from Matilda Goad. They just added kind of a bit of colour, and then to hide all of the shoes I got these baskets to just still have everything there because I didn't want to kind of sacrifice space. but just wanted it to look a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And then I've just kind of added some vintage pieces. A lot of the things I get are secondhand or from antique shops, and just kind of pick them up as and when I see them and I like them, and that is a theme throughout the whole of the flat. But here there's quite a few pieces similar to that. So I have got tongue and groove on the walls, and I just think it's really nice to break up the wallpaper. I think it probably would have overwhelmed the space if I had just all of the wallpaper, as beautiful as it is, but I wanted to kind of take the blue out of this and add it into the rest of the space, and I just think it adds kind of a classic style touch to it. It just kind of elevates any space. So all of my artwork I have in the house are either kind of sentimental to me, or I just have seen them and liked them, but a lot of them are countryside theme or have some kind of special meaning to me. This one is a fully kind of countryside scene, and it's very special to me because it was painted by a teacher from my school, and I've had it for probably about 7 or 8 years, and I just think it goes really, really well with the flat. And then other pieces I get are all kind of vintage or antique. I just saw this one, I think, on an Instagram account that sells antiques, and I just really liked the sketch and the frame. It doesn't kind of necessarily mean anything to me, but I just thought it would work really well with the space. As the flat is kind of quite small and a bit of a weird angle, we had to really focus on storage and space, and so we've actually managed to fit quite a lot in this area of the hallway. It used to be a really big cupboard that was just full of loads of rubbish, but it's now more organised, and this is just kind of a big storage cupboard, and then under here is everything hidden for the underfloor heating, so you don't even have to kind of see everything. It's just nice to have that all hidden away. And then behind there is actually the washing machine, so it's nice to have a separate laundry area, but it's already hidden away so you don't have to see it because it's a little bit ugly. Welcome to the main bathroom. I still wanted to have kind of a family style bathroom, and it's in a similar space to where the bathroom used to be. So that was another kind of key thing to keep in mind with the renovation. We didn't want to move too much just to keep costs down, and so we moved it down a little bit, but still managed to kind of keep some of the pieces in here, just kind of redid them. But I absolutely love the colour green. It's one of my favourite colours, and I've used it a lot in the flat, but I think this one's just a bit more of a kind of darker, different green to the other ones I've used. Again, I've used tongue and groove in here as well, but I just think it works everywhere, and it adds a little bit extra kind of design detail, especially around kind of the loo area. That just, to me, was a little bit boring before, but I think now it looks more designed and styled better. But I think in here there's not too much that's kind of super special, but I wanted it to still feel really homely and definitely not like a very city bathroom, and I don't think it does. Again, with the flooring, it's still the same wooden tiles, and we've added the tongue and groove around the bath as well. So this sink unit is just from IKEA, and I wanted to keep it really simple but still kind of classic. I didn't want to be spending loads of money on a kind of special sink, but the way I've kind of added it and made it a bit more special and a bit more my style is by adding more of a kind of classic design tap and things like these coloured knobs from Matilda Goad, and just even small design additions that make it a bit more special, especially like the prints on the wall just makes the kind of sink area look and feel a bit more put together. Welcome to my bedroom. This used to actually be the kitchen. We completely flipped the flat around, so the kitchen is now at the other end and the bedroom is now here. And it just meant that we kind of got more space in the kitchen, but I actually did get a bigger bedroom than how it was before, and we also managed to add an ensuite into the space as well, which is hidden by doors. So there was originally a chimney breast here, and it was very hard to get rid of it and fill it in. So we actually decided to utilise it as a design feature. So it just meant that we can have 2 wardrobes either side and have a little dressing table area in the middle, and it just means there's a lot more storage now, and I think it just adds a nice design feature to it while kind of in keeping with how the flat was originally. So I've struggled with styling this area a little bit, but I wanted to add a bit more life to it. I love artwork, as you will probably be able to see, but I added these small prints. These are painted on glass, and I just love how they add a pop of colour, but they're still in keeping with kind of my style and the ongoing kind of nature countryside touch to the whole design of the flat. And then behind this is a very special picture to me. My dad kindly gave that to me, but it's just one that's been in my family home for a really long time that I really loved, and it's just nice to have a piece of that connection to my own home as well. And yeah, it's just very in keeping with my style again, and I've just made this kind of vanity area. Just, it looks pretty to me, and it's nice to get ready every morning there, putting on my jewellery and picking a perfume. So the colour in here was actually one of the easiest choices for me. I adore colour, and it was quite difficult to pick everything, but I just really wanted a very calming, kind of still obviously colourful, but more, to me, neutral tone. And I decided to fully colour drench this room. I think it just makes it kind of look a bit more seamless. It makes the wardrobes kind of fade into the back of the room. I didn't want them to be so overpowering, because obviously they are quite tall, and when you're kind of in bed it just felt a bit oppressive, so I wanted to drench that. And then I also took the same colour into the ensuite with the tongue and groove, just so that it matched with the bedroom. My headboard is one of my favourite pieces. It was made with Lewis & Wood fabric, a company I absolutely love their designs of. I actually managed to get the fabric in a sale they were doing for, I think, probably about £20, and I just had enough fabric to make a headboard with it, and I think I had the fabric for about 6 years, so it was nice to be able to use that. And then with the help of my mum, who's the interior designer of the family, she helped me pick a velvet trim to go with it. But this kind of inspired the whole colour of the room and the pieces I've added, because that was the first kind of bit we had done before starting the rest of the room. So I like to mix and match on bedding. It's usually pink, just because that's what I like, but I like to mix the florals with the stripes and the textures as well. So I've just got linen bedding with these kind of linen ruffle cushions, and then I wanted to add a bit of a stripe, and again a nod to kind of the classic design features with a ticking stripe. And then I've added this gorgeous quilt from Rosanna Faulkner, and it just, again, it's kind of a girly floral touch, but I think it's still quite classic in keeping with that design, and it just felt to me very nice and cozy. So the prints above the bed are from Ochre, and they came in a big kind of multi-pack of prints. I just think it's really nice. It's not too overwhelming above the bed. And I just think they go really well with the colours and everything as well. My bedside tables were a little bit of a difficult decision for me. I originally wanted something antique just because I tend to prefer kind of the character they add to a room, but I managed to find these from Swoon, and they have kind of an antique feel, but obviously they're new, but I think they go really well. They don't overpower too much. They go with the tones of the room, but then I have added some antique vintage pieces on top, such as this lamp, but then added a fun shade from Pookie. Again, just kind of adding to the different colours that are in the room. There's quite a few, but they're all subtle, so kind of pinks, blues, and it's just nice to kind of add a nod to those, and then styling it with just other little vintage pieces that I pick up. Whenever I go to a vintage shop or antique shop, I'll usually find something. I have to refrain sometimes, but it's nice to have those bits to kind of dot around the flat. So along this side of the bed there isn't too much room, but I had this bookcase which is actually my grandpa's, and it is the perfect size for this space. It's just nice to again have an antique touch to the room and just another fun place to style. I love styling different sections of my room, but I've added a bit of colour with this urn from Lamp London, which is a new purchase for me, and I just think it adds a lot of fun colour. And then again, just with some antique books and little touches. Also, I love this Soho Home lamp. It's a bit modern for me, but I loved it so much that I wanted to try and challenge myself to see if I could fit it into my style, and I think it works perfectly for a bedroom. As my bedroom is onto the road, I wanted to have privacy but without sacrificing light, and so I added these shutters. They're very classic for the area of London I'm in, and I just wanted to have that nod to it, but also obviously with the light, and it's just great that I can open them up and have them letting all of the sunlight in, but then obviously when I want to go to bed and have a bit more privacy, they fully kind of block out anything, which is just really nice. I can have the best of both worlds. This ensuite was a bit of a labour of love. It was a very tight space that we didn't think we could fit it in, and the builders did not think it would work, but actually luckily it has, and I'm so happy that it has worked. It is everything I wanted, but my kind of favourite bit is that you can shut these pocket doors, which is so fun and just nice to kind of hide it. I don't really shut them very often, but it's nice to have the option. And I've again kind of gone with the classic design features with the tongue and groove again, and then obviously still using the colour from the bedroom. And I've just added, this is one of my favourite pieces, it reminds me of home, and it's just nice to add that kind of antique countryside vibe to it. And then these lights are from Pookie, and again they were the perfect colour match for the paintwork, and I just think it's really nice and cosy in here. It's just nice to kind of get ready for bed in a nice space. And then one of my favourite elements is in the whole flat there's no carpet, but I still wanted kind of a warm flooring really, so I've used these wood tiles everywhere, but then in here I wanted to add something a little bit different to elevate the space a little bit more but still kind of have a nice design feature. So I used these daisy tiles, and they just add a little bit something to the space and also differentiate from bedroom to the ensuite. Home to me means just being comfortable and happy in your space, but being able to bring friends and family in. I'm at my happiest in my home when I've got all my loved ones around me, either that's hosting or simply just having a movie night, or you know, being able to kind of be in a comfortable space with a friend or family member. I just think when I was designing this place, that was at the core of what I wanted to achieve. And I just think a home is where you welcome others in.